Hello, pedal aficionados, pedal board fans, and people that need to go direct with a lot of options. Because today we're looking at the Simplifier X. Now, I looked at the Simplifier, the tiniest little all analog, which is the big thing here, direct box you can get with quite a few sounds in it that you can't really all tap into because pretty much you set it up one way and then that's what's on your board. There's a lot of things you can do, but you only have access to one of the things you've done. Now, there is I think a Simplifier, the bigger one, Pro or whatever. Now there is the Simplifier X, really the evolution of what DSM Humboldt from Chile has developed throughout the years. And this is really where, they've arrived at, I think, where they want to be until the next one. This thing is completely insane. Wrapping your head around what it does, how to set it up is a big thing, and all the options, it's literally impossible to do it all in one video. One of the reasons is because you have a certain way of using it. That's the way you set it up. That's the way you wire it. If I want to show you every one of these ways, there's a billion of them, I would literally have to change the setup around it completely. So I'm going to show you a few things you can do. This is what it looks like. That's already kind of complicated, but it really isn't. It's still kind of complicated. So let's go with what's on top of the pedal. And then for 8 minutes, we're going to look at the sides because each side is littered with inputs and outputs and possibilities. It comes with this foot switch right here. So that's included, the cable's included, and that allows you to switch back and forth between the two sides and also turn the reverb on and off. You could switch the channels on the actual pedal, but of course the foot switch makes sense. So let's look at the top of the pedal. Let's look at one side because they're kind of the same in terms of control. They're just differently voiced. This is the standard Simplifier sounds. So we have a preamp control. Okay, none of this, I know DSM Humboldt is not going to be happy for me saying that, but and they're paying me for this video. None of this is an AC30. It goes in the direction. It's a tone print. It's a frequency response. It's to give you something to work with. Is there an actual AC30 in there? No, there's no tubes in there. It's not an actual AC30 circuit, but it gives you an idea of where you're going in terms of frequency response. It's a guide. That's the word I'm looking for. So we got AC Brit preamp, AC Brit power amp. And that means that the power amp will behave like that would behave. Now, we have this power amp setting here from clean to warm to compressed to distorted, but you really can't use it that way. You can't say, now I want this much power amp distortion. I tried to do that and I got horrible sounds out of it. Until I talked to Daniel from DSM, and he explained to me how to operate this pedal. So I will try to give you a guide so that you don't get the horrible sounds. It is easy to get this pedal to sound bad. That's one of the problems. It is easy. When you do one thing, you have to do another thing to compensate, and then another, and then another. But when you hit the sweet spot, then it's sweet. And that's really the idea, because you're not going to bend down during a gig and change things. You're going to have your pedal platform, that's kind of the idea, set up. So set it up and don't touch it anymore. Or in case someone touches it and it gets messed up before the gig, know what you have done. So we have the preamp, bass, mids, and treble. You can see bass is an important knob. And there's gain. That's your important knob. Then there's the power amp, which again, you could run an AC Brit into an MS Brit. So you pretty much have, I don't know, AC-ish, Marshall-ish, kind of Fender-ish, if you wanted to think of it that way. So you could run it AC and AC or AC into Marshall. Does it really, I mean, subtle differences, okay? And then for the power amp section, you have resonance and presence, low end and high end. Again, very important to adjust. Power amp drive. We're going to get to how to set this up. Here's your reverb setting, very simple. And this time around, we have a 112, a 212, and a stack. Let's say 412, okay? And you can really just pick a color, more of a analog speaker simulation frequency response. I mean, there's like a blue, green, or whatever. Don't go with it. Just dial it in till it sounds right. And then there's the master level. And you will continuously have to do this. Set up the gain you want. Adjust the power amp to have the fatness and the richness that you want without going too far or being too thin. Then adjust the bass. That's a very important thing for me because it easily gets too blown up. And then adjust the master. So it is a game of do something here, adjust here, do something here, adjust here. You are rewarded once you know how to do it with very sweet sounds. Now, on the other side, we have really the same thing. We don't have to look at it anymore, but we have the top boost, a hot rodded US, and a more 800. So if this is more plexi-ish, then this is more 800-ish. So you have the higher gain side. Okay, relatively not so straightforward already. You can run both these independently as two completely separate amps. Each has its own mono effects loop. You can run this whole pedal in stereo with both amps running in parallel. You can switch between them. You can run the whole thing in mono, but then the caps in stereo. Okay, so it's utterly crazy. Let's go into looking at the sides and explaining to you why this thing is utterly unique in terms of flexibility. Okay, I will try to explain the ins and outs and all the stuff around this pedal to you as concisely as I possibly can, which is a massive challenge. So let's go to the inputs first, okay? We have two inputs. You would usually run into probably input A, that's the main. When you're running this pedal in full stereo, you could run stereo into it if you had a stereo source, but you could also in full stereo, which means both sides are running completely independently and completely independently out. You could run actually two guitars or guitar and a bass, whatever you desire, into these inputs, and that gives you a full dual amp. So you could run it as a dual amp by yourself, but you could actually, in a rehearsal or whatever, run both guitar players through this, and it would do the job. So let's say you go into one, and then you have let's call it a stereo effects loop if you're running it as a stereo pedal. However, if you are running these two amps independently and you're switching back and forth, you could have loop A for one amp and loop B for the other amp. So you actually have different effects in the effects loop, meaning let's say you're doing your rhythm sound here and your lead sound here. Once you switch to your lead sound, you actually have a delay on automatically because that is wired into the effects loop. If you are switching between the two and you don't want one without effect, you want the effect mono to be in both, then there is a link right here which will link the returns together, and for that, as far as the manual tells me, we have to use B. We're going to have to explore that. But just the fact that there's a stereo or independent input and a stereo or independent, depending on the mode, effects loop makes this ridiculously complex and versatile. So where do you pick those modes? Well, right here. First of all, this is where the foot switch pedal will go in. Oops, there. And that is then connecting this foot switch, which is automatically powered and actually has nice lights on it. And if the foot switch is not connected, you switch between the two channels right here. So there isn't a foot switch on top to do this. That is why you have the external one. So it's a little bit annoying when you don't use the foot switch to switch the pedal here, but that is why the foot switch is included. The switch all the way over here is reverb type, and the types are a room, ethereal, and plate. That kind of speaks for itself. And now we get to the thing in the middle. This is what makes this pedal so extremely versatile and complicated. So right here, let me look at this. This is mono operation, let's call it this. So both outputs will have the same signal on it. And you can switch between, in this case, B and A. Okay, A and B, back and forth with their individual effects loops. Unless you have this engaged, then you have one effect loop for both. And both of them are using everything that is set up on each, meaning also they have different caps. So you have really a control over how this sounds, including the cap and everything, and how this sounds. And you're switching back and forth, either switching back and forth with independent effects per amp, or with one depending on how you have this wired up. The next setting would be amp and cap stereo cap. So this isn't a stereo mode in the sense that you have a stereo effect wired in here. That is for the next mode. So again, independent effects. If you want to use only one, use A. That's what they're saying. If you wire something into B, it will apply to amp B. But it is actually using a stereo cap. And that means left and right actually is set by these two cap settings here. And when you're switching between the amps, they're both using both, which can be kind of nice to have a little bit of a wider sound. So it's not switching between caps. The cap stays the same, but depending on this setting. And then the last mode is full parallel, meaning I think you can go in with one guitar, yes, but full parallel effects, meaning full on stereo if you wanted that, full independent out here, and each channel goes out of one of the outputs. So this allows you to run it fully stereo or completely independent in terms of two guitars, whatever you want to do. So that really makes it two completely independent pedals in one. Okay, those three modes, obviously this is how you have it set up and wired. This is not something you quickly switch live. We have more stuff here. This is your headphone out. Nice knob, could be a little bit riffly, it's a little bit slippery, but okay. Headphone out, aux in, mini jack, and you can actually say whether or not that goes to the main outs or not. So does the front of house get your jam track or your click, or are you getting the click only together with your Simplifier X sound, and the output is only getting the Simplifier X sound? That's kind of nice, because there's probably situations where you don't want people to hear what you're hearing in terms of the aux input. Okay, 9 volt, 212 volt, 150 milliamps. Makes it really flexible to work with a variety of power supplies. We have a full through, so whatever is plugged in here comes out here to go to whatever you want, your real amp or whatever, and then this is like your DI solution. Then we have 1/4 inch outputs, and you can always see that these jacks are not like through a hole and shit like this. No, this is actually on the chassis, as professional and high-end as it gets. Now, if you don't want the analog speaker simulation on these, if you want to go through to a Cab M, a KMA endgame, or any kind of IR solution, you can turn this off and turn the speaker simulation off independently. So one of them could have it on, the other one not. Absolutely massively flexible. And at the same time, you still have the XLR to go to front of house, and that always carries the speaker sim, because of course, if you go into a different speaker sim, that should ideally have an XLR output. And of course, there's a ground lift in case you got hum issues. So this relatively small pedal has 4 magical sides of possibilities, which means on your board, make sure it is in a position where you can actually wire this all up. It will require some space around this pedal and the appropriate cables, but holy crap, does this make it a massively flexible solution that probably no one else can rival in terms of in, out, and routing capability. And now back to me. Okay, are you confused? Yes. So how much can I actually show you? I'm going to show you this. On the table, I have an overdrive in front of it. Green riff, can go different ways, but it's, lower gain. That's going into the input main. And then with the foot switch, I can switch between the two, let's say, channels and reverb on and off. In the effects loop B, which is the one you use when you use only one, I have the Joshua from MXR, which I have to review, so it was nice to just have that on the table. And at the moment, that is with the return link off, meaning it's only applied to amp B, not amp A, which is nice. So if you wanted just nice cleans here with beautiful delay, you can have that, but then you switch to this and you got your rock and rhythm. It's a really cool thing. If I wanted it in both, all I got to do is switch that return link over, and now it's in both. And when you're running it, as I already told you, when you're running stereo, you could have two different things in the loop, or a stereo pedal like the Eventide H90 in the loop. And in the back, I'm going XLR into the DAW directly, and that has the cap sim on all the time. I turn the cap sim off right here, and that is going into the aux stomp from UA, just to show you the difference between the built-in analog speaker simulation and a very, very high-end digital solution. Of course, the digital solution will have a tiny bit of latency. There'll be some milliseconds, whereas the analog is completely latency-free. And then there's a through, which we're not using. That could go directly into your amp, or who knows what. Confused? Yes. So let's get to some sounds. I'm gonna go to the B side, the reverb off. I don't know what I have set up here. The MXR is off. There's no amps involved. That is my amp. And I'm playing this PJD Carry Elite, absolutely massively stunning guitar, which I have one too many of, and that's this one. It's literally brand new out of the box. If you want to buy this, write it in the comments. Get in touch with me. Got a good deal on it. So right now, not a lot of meat. And that's one of the things like, oh, there's not a lot. Okay, so let's set up the preamp gain in this AC setting. Okay, we already got a lot of bass. Now I'm going to set up where I want the power amp to be. I don't want that. I want it thick, but not driving. Now we adjust master and bass. Tiny bit of hair on it. Okay, back up the preamp. There we go. We have clean. Now I can turn the reverb on. Let's put that on room. I can turn the delay on, which is now in the B, but not in A. Might want a bit more bass for the bridge pickup. look at the cab. That's right now on combo. Let's go to stack. Again, you're always compensating. That's really how you have to operate this Simplifier X. Put the riff on in front of it. Careful with the low end. So yeah, it of course works the pedals. We're going to kick that in quite a few more times. So let's see what else we got. That's what happens with a different power amp. Now you'd have to adjust again. And don't think presets, because that's not what's happening. You really pick your favorite, and that's what it will be on your board, at least for the gig or for the song. Let's go to the USA preamp. Ooh, big difference. And we're going to go to the MS Bridge preamp. And try to drive that a bit. See, nothing, 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 and then drive. Adjust power amp. Honestly, I just did a whole bunch of, modelers that I'm testing. This is as good or actually better than some of the digital stuff in a higher price range that I'm checking out right now. Is it as flexible and convenient? No, because it's what you see is what you get. But tonally, hell yeah. Let's go into the aux stomp. Now in the aux, I could of course use the effects of the aux if I wanted to, and there they are. Let's kick in the rev as a drive. I lost all the nice stereo effects from the aux, okay? And now I would have to adjust again because I adjusted it for the aux. Honestly, both give you great sounds. You could full on record with this and be okay. Honestly, is it what any tube amp gives me? No, it isn't. But I could record an album with this and nobody would be the wiser. Live? Hell yeah. No riff. Where am I now? Again, less gain on the preamp means more gain on the power. Now it's too much. Let's go US. Let's test the reverbs. The EQs have a huge range. And really what you're doing with the amp picking is shifting the whole frequency response in a certain direction. So if I go to AC Brit now, Brit with MS, too much of a hole. With the Brit, with the AC, take the low end down. You will start learning those tricks. For me, it was helpful that Daniel told me. And then you'll know, I like that chiminess of the AC, but back off the bass. It's not a digital product. It doesn't do this automatically. You have to learn it. Look at the suggested settings. There's a beautiful list that they're sending you. Read the manual and just get into the habit of I want that kind of sound and then doing a basic setup to make it work. That's just a great sound. Kicking it. Again, it is, honestly, it's a finicky little box that requires you to dial in where you want to go. It is easy to get pretty horrible sounds. I mean, this is a review channel. Sorry, DSM. Cranking up gain, especially on the AC, cranking up gain and cranking up the power amp. Ooh. It's not as horrible as I had it. Where was that sound? I'm trying to make it sound bad. Now I can't make it sound bad anymore. What the crap? Must be the guitar. Maybe the guitar was pushing too hard. The other one that I had. We wanted to test the reverb. Come on, Henning. Focus! That is sweet. Come on. It makes off. That room is giving us a bit of the air that we need for realistic speaker response. The aux, honestly, I don't think it sounds a lot better than the analog speaker simulation that we have here. It's, of course, more flexible, different mics and cabs and all that, more flexible than what the Simplifier will give you. And it has that moving air in a room feel. In a band, how much do you care? Use both, or don't. I honestly am pretty damn impressed with what I'm getting just with the Simplifier. I wouldn't have thought I would be, honestly. So I'm going to go to the ethereal now, or ether as they call it, which again, you have to clicky switch, it's not digital. And now with the Joshua, pretty sweet. And then there's, I think it's called a plate or so, or something. And then E note. For jazz stuff, you're jazzing? That's the box to take on stage. The way it is, without anything around it, because that is now just a simplifier. I'm gonna go to the channel B. And we be careful all on the AC. Top boost. 212. Here we go. Setup. Drive. Setup power amp. Here we go. Let's go back to the aux just for fun. Nope. That's better. Ah, the power amp was too... with the riff. I'm having too much fun. Back to the Simplifier DI, and here we go. Now I'll have to adjust again. Let's stick with the AC, but go to the 800 power amp. You get the idea. Now I can't get the Joshua in there. I'm gonna have to link so that it applies to both sides. That was, of course, with the ref, here without it. I can't stop playing. It rocks. But don't forget, that's the one setting you would now have. Okay, well, not a problem. We go back to channel B. That's the great thing with this over the normal simplifier. You get two channels. And let's have that delay only in that channel. We'll explore a bit more here, Marshall and Marshall. Let's push that with the riff. that was mode 1. Let's go to mode 2, which is the same thing, really, but wait, where's the switch? There. Now it's doing the 2 cabs in stereo, so we should get a little bit stereo-ness. Effects will not be stereo. It is still mono, even if I'm switching back and forth between the channels. First of all, I don't have stereo effects in there, but they still wouldn't be. All the behavior is the same, except for the 2 cabs are now left and right. And I did a 412 all the way to the left, 112 all the way to the right, so you can clearly hear it. Of course, not on your phone, while you're on the crapper. So there's definitely the combinations of preamp and power amp will result in some level jumps. They will also result in more or less gain, more or less low end, more or less high end, and definitely more or less mids. So again, switching it around, it is not presets. You switch it, you find your sound, and realistically, in a live situation, there are your 2 settings that you carefully dialed in a controlled environment. But then, I mean, I was on Marshall here, let's do this. Those are 2 great sounds. And if I then take the rev on a low gain setting, kick it a bit. Or take the rev in a higher gain setting over here. Now, we're not going to go, I mean, there's a billion things to do. We're not going to go run it fully stereo. What would happen is literally you have the left side and its speaker simulation and its output completely separate from the right side. This is then a full stereo pedal. You can run with 2 instruments through it and have 2 guitars. If everything else fails, you could literally go to a gig with 2 guitar players, 2 guitars, that 1 box, and if the sounds are what you need and you know how to use your volume, have we done this? No, we haven't. Doesn't clean up all the way, but you can work with your volume. So yeah, what else? We have tried external IR/digital stuff. Yes, we had a pedal in front of it. We talked about the effects loops. You can run it again. I cannot possibly make this big, Leslie. I mean, we've been here for hours. I cannot possibly show you all permutations of preamp and power amp. I don't know how many, 2 times 3, whatever number that is, and then times this, and then times these, and then you go over here and do the same thing, 2 times 3 times 3 times that, and then hashtag math is real. I think this clocks in under $500. And yes, you get a modeler with 200 presets for under $500. I can think of a Line 6 system stuff, the Ampero Stomp, for example, all this. this feels a bit more direct. It feels more direct because there is no latency. And honestly, full disclosure, you can get some horrible sounds out of the Simplifier X. I had to call them up, I do this for a living. I should know how to operate something like this, but I didn't. So do not be discouraged if you're getting it and you're getting bad sounds, because it isn't easy. Start with the preamp gain, adjust thickness, not drive, adjust thickness and meatiness with power drive. Then look at the low end, because sometimes the low end is way too much. So bass and resonance, adjust that down a bit, and then master. Then look at the speaker color, and of course what speaker you're using, and then adjust the room reverb. I suggest to have a little bit of air. And then this thing can deliver stunning cleans, amazing leads, and rockin' rocks. 100% it can. It also has 400 sounds that are not good, but the sounds that are good, they're good. So do not do what I did in the original video that I did about the Simplifier. Don't dismiss it too quickly. It is, honestly, and I never thought I would say this, with its all analog speaker simulation and all this, it is a real competition to modeling and the Kempers and the tone axes and all of that stuff. It doesn't give you instant gratification. There is a learning curve. And if you turn the speaker sim off on the 1/4-inch outs, then you can go into any kind of IR loader that you want. Honestly, yeah, I know what I do in the aux. I would probably use an aux with it because I have it, but I could absolutely use the built-in speaker simulation, the analog one, and be happy with it. It's a great product with, the build, it comes with a foot switch, the reverb's great. You have to set it up on your board, and then that's what's set up for the gig. You have to be the guy that doesn't want all of its possibilities at your disposal at any given point in time. It doesn't do that. It gives you what you have set up, but those are really, really cool sounds. And I feel it's a real option on the market. If all that digital stuff is too complicated and diving into menus and updates, now there's no updates. This is a box that comes out and you put it on the table and you can actually grab every single parameter. Make some space on your board because it needs all the cables around it. Look at it. Loops, input, output, foot switch, maybe headphone over here or aux in. So you need to make some space around it. But honestly, it's as big as a hand. It is not a big pedal. I don't know how they put everything in there. They are absolutely crazy people. And they got me. In the beginning, I didn't like DSM Humboldt and the Simplifier. And it took me a while, but now I do. And that's not because I paid for this video. Okay, if you think that, go away. You heard the sounds. Thank you, you Chilean crazy people. I'll put links below. Please use them. That's very, very important. Please also subscribe to the channel. That costs you absolutely nothing. It's just a click. It makes me happy. It makes the companies happy. So why aren't you doing it? I did the work to present this pedal to you in a 4-hour video. So please click the subscribe button. Also use my links to Sweetwater, Andertons, and Thomann to buy things. That really supports the channel. Thank you so much. And animals at the end.
The world and its smile have been playing with my pride again. Been wasting my time in a dress I didn't fit to. Had nothing but the air